Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. I think most of us would agree that we have more freedom and opportunities than any generation before us. We don't have to travel that far back in time when people, wherever they were born, stayed in that area for the rest of their lives. If they went somewhere, it wasn't far. And yet in today's age, many of us, if not all of us, through a little work and saving money and a little good research on finding discount flights, could probably fly almost anywhere in the world for under $1,000. And it wasn't that long ago, if your father was a plumber or your mom was a homemaker, that was the job you were going to do for the rest of your life too. This one may shock you, but when I went to graduate school at Princeton, it had only been 13 years that at the undergraduate university they allowed women to attend. Prior to that, every undergraduate at Princeton was a man. We have so many choices of what we can eat, what we can do, where we can live, who we can be with. It seems endless. And yet with all this freedom, the rates of anxiety and dissatisfactions are incredibly high in our world. We pursue happiness relentlessly, but it feels like a moving target. Sadly, many people struggle with a false dichotomy. They think that happiness is either one of two things. There's a deep sense of frantic achievement, a hustle culture, a promise that happiness is just on the other side of the next goal, promotion, or purchase. There's freedom without relaxation. The second thing people struggle with is passive comfort, the comfort zone trap. Well, they'll avoid risk and challenge to maintain a sense of safety, which often leads to stagnation, relaxation without freedom. Today I want to propose a different truth, where sustainable happiness doesn't lie in either of these two extremes, that of freedom or that of relaxation, but instead of relaxed freedom. When I think of often the best description of what happiness is, I think the term relaxed freedom is a really good descriptor of what happiness looks like, feels like, and is experienced. So let's next take a little time to explore these two pillars of happiness. First, what is freedom in this context? If it isn't the frantic search for money, wealth, fame, things that so many of us think will solve our problems, but so many of us, when we reach them, realize that they don't. When we have limitless options and no responsibilities, this often leads to paralysis and chaos. Haven't we all known someone who perhaps inherited a lot of money, or won the lotto, or somehow or other came into a really boon when it came to financial blessings, and yet shortly afterwards, their lives just fell apart? Are you familiar with the lives of 𝐃𝐨𝐬𝐵 II and 𝐃𝐨𝐬𝐵 III? They inherited from their father and grandfather more wealth than most of us can even imagine, and yet both of them struggled with severe drug addiction and meaningless lives, yet they had all the freedom in the world. The freedom we're exploring here that relates to true happiness is about agency and authenticity. It's about our ability to make choices, big or small, that are in alignment with our core values. It's the freedom to be ourselves, not just freedom from constraints. When we add attachments to our lives, like I have to have this job, or I'm ruined by my past choices, freedom comes from living in the here and now, being present, and knowing who we are, and within that knowing, making decisions that flow with life instead of fighting life. And when life puts up barriers that says, no, you can't go down this way, this isn't for you, in freedom we say, okay, because I have agency, I'll find other ways to create meaning and purpose in my life. Because the truth is, there are so many different opportunities being presented to us throughout our day, throughout our lives, that really do create freedom. Perhaps our job someday says, we don't need you anymore. The freedom comes from knowing we can apply to other jobs, perhaps retire early. Because we're not constrained by rigid rules, there's so many options available to us. When we were younger, perhaps we dreamed of moving to the country and having animals and plants all around us. But life went down a different path for us. So now we choose, because we're free, to perhaps get a cat and houseplants that we love and nurture. It's not that we don't set goals and work towards things. It's just when goals don't pan out the way we thought they would, then we say, oh, what new adventure is here for me to indulge in, to love, to savor? How can I create meaning in this very unplanned situation? The freedom comes from choosing to live a life of beauty regardless of the circumstances. We don't let life's circumstances dictate us. We flow with whatever life brings. That's freedom. But then what does it mean to be relaxed in regards to freedom? It isn't about laziness, apathy, or lack of ambition. It's about presence and non-attachment. It's the ability to be fully engaged in whatever we're doing while letting go of an attachment to a certain outcome. We may have preferences, but when life says no, that isn't what's going to happen, we respond with, okay, then I'll make this thing work instead. It's a state of inner calm that rises from our independence and need to have certain outcomes. When we pursue goals, we flow with life. We don't fight life. And when life presents us things differently than we expected, we make that work, whatever that is. It's not that we don't work towards things, it's just realizing we have limited influence on the external world around us. But what we do have complete influence on is our response. So what happens when we combine these two, the synchrony of relaxed freedom? If we have freedom without relaxation, we get anxiety. This is a person who's constantly striving, planning, and worrying. They have the agency to act, but no inner peace, so their freedom feels like a burden. And then there's relaxation without freedom, which is stagnation. This is a person who avoids making difficult choices or taking action. They may feel calm in the short term, but they lack the agency to create a meaningful life, leading eventually to regret. The goal of life is to find that sweet spot where our ability to act, freedom, is guided by a calm, centered mind, relaxed. With relaxed freedom, whatever comes our way, we do well, because in the little things of life and the big ones, we just flow with life. When our alarm that we set the night before doesn't go off in the morning, instead of feeling that anxiety of the day, we say, okay, things have changed a bit. I'll adjust to these changes. And there may be even some consequences. My boss may write me up for coming in late, but I'm just doing my best. But in the long run, if the consequences turn out to, I don't have a job anymore, then I'll say, okay, what's next? Will I go back to school? Will I find a different job in a different industry? Might I move to a place I've wanted to live before? The longer we live, the more we're going to realize that there's a lot of things in life we just can't control. But that doesn't take away our freedom and our choice, our ability to respond with each of these changes, unexpected though some of them may be, with equanimity and peace. When we cultivate a state of equanimity, a relaxed state in our minds that we can handle anything, and at the same time working towards things, knowing that whatever is presented to us, there's always freedom of how we're going to respond to these sometimes very difficult situations. The rapidity at which our world is changing right now can seem overwhelming, but with relaxed freedom, no matter what we face, we can handle it well because we know we always have choices, freedom, no matter what's presented to us. Even if the only freedom we have is our response, but that is a huge freedom that we have. And if we do it from a state of relaxation, it's so much easier to have life go well. And life guarantees us one thing. Life is going to change. Our lives are going to change. And sometimes in ways that we don't want them to. But with relaxed freedom, we say, how can I handle this? How can I turn this into something beautiful? One of the most challenging situations we may ever face in our lives is getting a terminal illness, and we're young, or younger than we thought the age we'd be when it was time for us to die. Of course, many people, when they face this challenge, are overwhelmed, are scared, are angry. And yet, you know, I've met countless people over the years working as a clinical psychologist, helping people transition in life, that have told me that after they were diagnosed with their illness is when they really started to live. They weren't afraid anymore because they knew they couldn't control the outcome. Death was coming for them, and at the same time, they started to live for the first time in life because they realized their life was limited. It is true that most people aren't able to achieve this level of relaxed freedom when huge challenges come in life, but I believe any of us can. It is not easy to develop these skills of happiness, but if we develop them, they're the most priceless gift imaginable. To cultivate freedom, we have to understand what we're in control of and what we're not in control of. We do work towards our goals, but we understand that life doesn't always align with what we think it should give us. And when it gives us something differently, we say, okay, I can make this work. And we're relaxed, knowing that whatever comes our way, we will respond with equanimity, peace, and joy. So thankful for all the gifts that life gives us throughout our days and throughout our lives. So in conclusion, as we go through our days and our lives, ask ourselves, at the core of what I experience in life, can I define my life as relaxed and free? And if not, is this something I can work towards? We can. It's worth more than winning the biggest lotto you can possibly imagine. People aren't born with a state of relaxed freedom. It's something they work towards. You can work towards it. It can truly become the center of who you are in every interaction you have in life. I'm honored and blessed to be part of your journey. May you, throughout life, find joy, find peace, and find freedom in each and every day of your most beautiful life.